Welcome into Jungle Tales, a Pirate Baseball podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in. Be sure to like, follow, comment, and subscribe at Jungle Tales Pod on X and Instagram. And, of course, you can listen via our YouTube channel or also audio only on Spotify. On deck for East Carolina is a 3-game series with Penn out of the Ivy League. And right now to preview that matchup with the Quakers, very excited to be joined by their longtime head coach, and that is John Yurkow. Coach, we appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, obviously you and the Quakers are in transit to Greenville as we speak. So again, appreciate the time. And you're off to a 2-8 start, but Pirate fans, that is very, very misleading. The Quakers went out to Texas A&M and gave the Aggies, the 24th ranked Aggies at the time, everything they wanted and then some. You had that first game that was scoreless going into the bottom of the ninth, and you lose 1-0, and then you led 1-0 going to the bottom of the ninth in game two. What have you seen not only on opening weekend but through the first 10 games of the season? From your ball club.
Yeah, we have played some pretty good opponents. Started at A&M obviously, and played Mercer the following weekend. I think right now just kind of searching for an identity on offense a little bit. We've pitched it, fairly well. We've thrown a lot of strikes. Just looking to look for a little more consistency throughout the lineup, up and down the order. As far as being able to push some more runs across, just looking for some production from some guys. I think that's the big key going into this weekend down in Greenville.
And you mentioned that lineup. Two guys that really stood out to me, Gavin Degnan and then also Nick Spaventa. If you would, tell us about those guys. Gavin, he's hitting right around 280, 2 bombs, has driven in close to 10 runs, 3 doubles, and then Nick Spaventa already has 4 doubles through the first 10 games. What do they bring to the table, and then who are some of those other guys in your lineup that we should keep an eye on this weekend at Clark LeClaire Stadium?
Yeah, both juniors. Gavin Degnan, pretty good athlete in the outfield. Played right field, played some center field for us. He does have some bat speed, so he can drive the ball. Just a good all-around baseball player. Hitting middle of the order for us throughout the year. Nick Spaventa is our first baseman, big, strong kid. Probably the strongest kid on our team, pound for pound. He's going to give you consistent at bats. Really turned himself into a pretty good first baseman too. He came in as more of a third baseman. Now he's going on his 3rd year. He's starting to feel really comfortable at first base. But 2 guys that we're going to lean on, throughout the year.
In addition to Degnan and Spaventa, who were some other positional players that ECU fans should keep an eye on this weekend?
Yeah, I think Jarrett Pokrovsky, who last year I think was one of the NCAA leader in doubles per game. Kind of he's off to a little bit of a slow start. He's got some gap power. It's going to give you consistent at bats typically. Ryan Taylor, he's played a lot of outfield. You're probably going to see him a little bit in the infield at second base this weekend. We've had a couple injuries recently in our lineup. Gavin Collins is another name. He's had to DH a little bit. He's dealing with a finger issue. And that we just lost our senior shortstop, Davis Baker. It looks like it's going to be an extended period of time, could be for the season. He separated his shoulder last weekend against UMBC. So we've had to kind of juggle some guys around. So we've been working through that for the last 5 or 6 days. I think the good thing is for us, we do have quite a few guys that have some position flexibility, which is nice. But you will see some different lineups, I think, this weekend, down there than what we've kind of run out the last previous few weekends.
As I mentioned, with that season opening series for you guys, which is actually on the second weekend of Division I play, on the 20th to the 22nd, What can you tell us about your team defensively? I would imagine, just based on the scores of those games, that your team must have played fairly well defensively, going into the eighth and ninth innings, scoreless or in a 1-0 game with Texas A&M.
Yeah, we've handled the ball okay. I kind of thought that we'd be all right in that area coming into the year. I think one of the things that we struggled with a little bit, just because of how tough of a winter it was up in the Northeast, we actually really weren't able to get outside very much. Our first practice on a field was the Thursday before we played down at Texas A&M in College Station, actually. But we've been out and had been able to get on our field a lot more over the last week to 10 days. So I feel like we're starting to settle in a little bit better. As far as judging fly balls, the speeds of the infields are going to be a little different. We play on turf up home, so playing on some of the faster natural surfaces is always a little bit of an adjustment. But I think so far we've handled it okay.
Tell us about your pitching staff. Jake Moss numbers really stood out to me. He's 1-0 with a 1.17 ERA, 15 in the third innings across 3 starts, I believe, thus far. 12 Ks, and opponents are hitting just 217 against him.
Yeah, he'll start for us on Friday. 92, 93, sometimes better. He might touch a 5 every once in a while. Pretty good fastball, good spin rate guy, kind of expand the zone north-south. He's got a couple different breaking balls. Does like a split and a breaking ball. Senior, experienced kid, off to a good start for us right now.
After Moss, tell us about the rest of your rotation. I know the name Marty Coyne, and then who will you go with the other day?
Yeah, so Marty will go on Saturday. He's a left-hander, junior, 90-91. Good fastball command for both sides. Slider, changeup, pretty good strike thrower. Does a good job locating the ball down in the zone. Had a couple pretty good starts for us so far this year. And then, on Sunday, we're going to start Thomas Shirtliff. He got his first start of the year last Sunday against UMBC. We've been stretching him out a little bit. He was primarily a reliever for us in the past, but we decided to move him into the Sunday spot. So you guys will see him down there on Sunday. A little lower slot right-hander, 91 and 92, sometimes a little bit better. His outlier pitch is when he's going good. He's got a pretty good sweeper, good pitch, got it like east to west, break on it. Another senior, competitive kid. That was one of the reasons why we decided to move him into the rotation.
Your bullpen, Nick Newbern, 4 appearances, 6 2/3 innings, is yet to allow a run, and has surrendered 5 hits in that time. What can you tell us about Nick? And then also, who are some other top options out of your bullpen thus far?
Yeah, Nick's off to a good start, freshman. Big kid, kind of a high release, high slot. Makes it tough as far as angles, really throwing the ball downhill. Really good changeup. As far as his secondary pitch, he's thrown a lot of strikes early in his career. It's good to see getting those kind of contributions, from freshmen. We've had a couple freshmen that have really kind of stepped up out of the bullpen, but Nick's one in particular, and then the other guy is Connor Darling, another big right-hander, more of an over-the-top breaking ball guy. He'll be running ball 92 to 94. So I would say those 2 guys right now. And then the third guy is another senior that just kind of getting him back is John Sierwinski, senior coming off an injury from last year, missed a lot of time. We're trying to get the rust off of him. I guess there's a chance you might see him for a little bit this weekend as well. I think the other kid throwing it pretty good is Aiden Von Zuden, sophomore left-hander with a pretty good arm. I'd say they are some of the guys that kind of stick out right now for us and off to decent starts.
A couple more rather big picture questions for you. Taking a look at it's hard to believe that it was 3 years ago, but it was going back in preparation for this conversation this morning. It was in fact 2023 when you guys started 2-0 down in the Auburn Regional, and then unfortunately for you lost the next two to Southern Miss and weren't able to advance to the Super Regionals. But what are your memories of that run? And overall, now you've been there at Penn for a couple decades, your 14th season as a head coach. So, yeah, what are your memories of that fun postseason run on the Plains?
Yeah, that was a pretty talented veteran group of guys. That was, I think that year we won the regular season title and then kind of rolled through the tournament as well. And yeah, I had an opportunity to go down to Auburn. I thought we played really well there. Had some really, really elite arms. I thought that pitched great for us. Great experience. Yeah, 2-0 and played a great environment, obviously. And then just couldn't get past Southern Miss, who had a really good club that year. But yeah, we were 1 win away from being in a super regional at Tennessee, actually.
As I mentioned a couple minutes ago, you really, with the Ivy League, you started play a week later, and then you typically play probably, I don't know the exact number on your schedule this year, but not the allotment of 56 regular season games. But you like to challenge yourself and prepare your team for the postseason. I mentioned that series at Texas A&M, and then you played Mercer. Mercer is normally a quality club, and you went toe to toe for them in at least two of those three games. And of course, ECU this weekend, a perennial top 25 program that's often hosting regionals. So, how did this series come into place, and just your overall philosophy as far as non-conference play?
Yeah, I think it's important to try to play, top quality teams, teams that are consistently in regionals from year to year. Because the atmosphere, that's what you're going to face when you get to a regional. And I think trying to play those types of quality clubs, I think it's been good for us. You referenced the Auburn regional, and then the following year we went to Charlottesville. And I felt like our guys handled the atmosphere really well. The crowd experience, because they've experienced it before. This year A&M, we opened up at Florida State the year before. A few years before that, we opened up at South Carolina. So it's definitely something I try to do. It can be challenging at times, and you have to make sure you have tough kids that can handle some of that adversity, because it can be tough if you get off to a rough start. And that's kind of where we're at right now. But obviously going down to ECU, it's going to be another extremely challenging series for us, and we're looking forward to it. Obviously, unbelievable fan base down there, really passionate about baseball. I thought it'd be a great opportunity to take the team down there, and that kind of came about through my relationship with Jeff Palumbo, who I've actually known for a considerably long time. We saw they had an opening, and we had an opening, so I reached out to Jeff, and I actually coached Jeff. I want to say it was 2002 or 2003 in the Coastal Plain League when I was an assistant at Duke at the time, and that's kind of how our relationship started. We just kind of kept in touch, see each other from time to time, recruiting trail. Great guy, he's a really good player. I'm actually looking forward to seeing him here this weekend.
Kind of along those lines, you mentioned your time at Duke. Since you brought that time with the Blue Devils up, I noticed that on your resume there in the early 2000s for about 4 or 5 seasons. I believe it would have been during the last year of Coach LeClaire and then the 3 years of Randy Mazey at ECU. What are your memories during that time of competing against the Pirates? And I guess you perhaps came to Harrington Field and Clark LeClaire Stadium.
Yeah, we would do typically like a home and home, I believe, with East Carolina, and I think my first experience, we were hosting, in Durham, and I remember getting to the park. It was like a Wednesday midweek game, and the parking lot was unusually busy around like noon or 1 o'clock. and I thought there might have been like we had another athletic event, like a lacrosse event or something going on, like another competition. And then now it was just the ECU fans at there early tailgating. So that was my first experience dealing with that crowd. Um, but yeah, and then had a couple opportunities to come to the old stadium, I think, before they transitioned back in, I guess that was in like 2001 to 2005. But yeah, I definitely have. It was a while ago, but I still remember the field, playing some quality games against those guys.
Yeah, that's an awesome story there. Final thing, kind of moving on to the conference portion of your schedule. You guys in the preseason were picked third behind Columbia and Yale. What can you tell us about how the league has performed to date here in the early, first month of the season, and just where things are, as you're getting ready to get league play cranked up?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell. I think you got a lot of teams in the Northeast that just dealt, with that weather situation this year. It was just unseasoned. I mean, we get some bad weather from time to time in January and February, obviously being in the Northeast, but this was like one of the worst winters we had. We just had snow on the ground for so long. I think that's one of the reasons why you see some teams still in the Northeast trying to kind of find their way, and get more into a daily baseball flow, more of a routine. So I think the league will kind of be up in the air. I think there's going to be a lot of parity in the league. I think there's some really good pitching in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the next couple of weeks. And you're right, we open up conference play the following weekend at home against Dartmouth. So it's getting on us pretty quick.
Coach, really appreciate your time this morning as you and Penn are traveling down to Greenville for this weekend series. 6 o'clock on Friday, 4 o'clock on Saturday, 1 o'clock on Sunday at Clark LeClaire Stadium. Before we let you go, go ahead if you'd like and plug your social media and also the Penn Quakers baseball social media.
Yeah, I think we're at Penn Baseball on Twitter, and just look forward to coming down. I look forward to this series. Be a good challenge for us.
Pirate Nation, that is Penn's longtime head coach, John Yurkow. We appreciate 20 minutes of his time this morning. Be sure to follow us on social media at Jungle Tales Pod, and we'll talk to you soon as we recap the week and what is a 5-game week for ECU after midweek wins over Old Dominion and William & Mary. But we'll talk to you on Sunday, and as always, go Pirates.